I'd like to preface this review by stating that despite everything that I'm going to talk about, I did thoroughly and immensely enjoy my time with this game. I'm a massive fan of the first one. I loved it when I put it on my Game of the Year list way back when, and I adored it even more after I was able to play it all the way through. So being able to return to this world and everything through a sequel not only felt really, really great, but in many ways it felt as though I never really left. But, unfortunately, I did have some issues. There are some negatives, some grievances that I feel I need to voice and get off my chest. Now, some of the most endearing qualities about Aloy, and some of the reasons why I love her so much as a character, is that she is a person who is so full of life, who is so full of joy, that when she realizes that, hey, there's this great big world outside of my bubble that I know nothing about, she dives into it with both feet. And is so passionate and enthusiastic about the idea of exploration and discovery. She's got an almost naive innocence about her that is very infectious, and she's just the sort of character that the more you spend time with her and the more you get to know her, you fall in love with her, like I did. My issue here, though, is that it doesn't feel like this is my Aloy. Now, I fully understand and accept that given everything that happened in the first game, everything that she witnessed, everything that she knows, is going to change her. Obviously, she's not going to be the same person. There's obvious room for growth because of these things. It's going to alter the way that she thinks and feels about things, the way that she reacts to things. And I fully understand that and accept that. But for, I don't know, the first half of the game, she comes across to me as a super obnoxious, super arrogant, and almost aggressive character. An example of that would be everything that happens with Sylens in the opening portions of the game. Now, I understand that maybe from her perspective, everything that Sylens does with Hades and all of that might look suspicious, might seem a little bit off, and be hair-raising. But the thing about Sylens is that he is someone who strives for knowledge and understanding. He's somebody that is always and constantly learning about things that he doesn't grasp. He also doesn't seem to be the type of person who would do something without purpose. Without a lot of premeditation. He definitely seems to be more of a big picture guy who might be planning for something way down the line. And to me, I don't know, my thought was, if you had the opportunity to interrogate and extract information from this rogue artificial program that tried to kill you and destroy the entire human existence, why would you not want to? Why is that such a bad idea? It's something I certainly would do. I certainly didn't blame him for wanting to do that. And he even goes as far as to try and explain to Aloy, look, because I did this, I now have learned things, and there's, definitely things that you don't understand, a larger scope that you aren't seeing, and I definitely think that we need to sit down and discuss it. To which her response is, I basically know everything I need to know. Because you're doing this, or because you did this, you are a traitor, you're a terrible person, and when I find you, I'm gonna kill you. And it's like, whoa, like maybe we should just hear the guy out for a second. On top of that, there's also, it's such a small thing when I think about it. But another thing that bothered me about her is that there is this indecisiveness or this crisis about her being a hero. Understandably, given, the war and everything that she did and all the ways that she helped the city of Meridian or whatever, people there definitely see her as this leader or this savior figure that deserves to be idolized and worshipped. And I think, obviously what they were going for is Aloy is a very modest girl. She doesn't want to be seen as this goddess erected in stone. She doesn't want to be this hero for the things that she did. I get that. My issue with it is that she says, oh no, I don't want to be a hero. It was just me being me. I'm just Aloy, I'm just this girl from this tribe and whatever. But then in the same breath, she turns around and is like, I need to go away and stop this because I'm the only one that who is capable of it and the only one that can, which in of itself is a very heroic role to throw herself in. So I found it a little bit off or annoying to in one instance try to be so modest and kind of reserved and then be like, well, I'm gonna go do this because no one else can. It just I'm not sure about that. Like I said, it's such a tiny thing in the larger picture of things, but to me I was just like, I don't know. I don't know which one to believe more at this point. And then she does this super douchey thing that kind of runs in parallel with the whole lone wolf thing, is that she just kind of abandons all of her friends. She goes off for 6 months and they don't communicate. They don't know kind of anything that's going on, where she's at, where she's been, anything. She just kind of drops them like a bad habit and goes off and does her own thing. All because she doesn't want them involved. She doesn't want them in harm's way. But the thing about it is that these aren't just friends that wish to help her for the sake of being friends, right? These are people that have fought beside her, that have put their lives on the line beside her, and she's just kind of like, meh, whatever. And the only reason she changed her tune is because, one, they are as determined as her to help her to stick around and not let her go off on her own as she is to do it. And two, she finally realizes that what is actually happening, the issue at hand, is beyond her, and she actually needs the help. Which in of itself is kind of frustrating, because it's something she could have figured out so much sooner if she would have just shut up for 5 minutes and listened to what Silence had to say. To be honest with you, when they introduced this idea, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I didn't really like the whole group aspect, the camaraderie aspect, through, sticking together and let's build a base and do all these things to prepare together, like, I don't know, Avengers or something. I really didn't like that. And the reason why is because I think so much of the original game, so much of the magic of that game is the solitude of it, right? It's this idea that this girl, this one person, is going off into this great unknown, to learn about it, to figure out what the purpose of it all is, and kind of how it all works, and what really happened, and everything that she wishes to discover and works to discover is at the against the wishes of her own people. And it's a very lonely experience by design. I think it's very much like we as players are the only ones that are allowed to go with her through the ups and the downs and the grand discovery of everything. And we as the player kind of discover things about the world and kind of the plot at the same time she does. So it's a very intimate experience that I think gets kind of ruined by the whole idea of now there's a group of people. It is something that eventually makes sense when you realize where they're going at the end of the game. Speaking of that, speaking of the narrative here as a whole, it is a very front-heavy game. It's very, very front-loaded, it feels. This is a game that wastes little time in introducing you to its villains and kind of gives you almost everything you need to know about them right away. So much so that I was sitting there going, might be a little bit too much information, and I hope that they have a way of keeping me motivated, keeping me invested for the next 20 or 30 hours or whatever it was. And in my mind, I was like, okay, well, maybe there'll be this carefully built web of little connective yarns, little references or little things that as Aloy is progressing in her adventure kind of guide her towards the end of the game. And the reality of it is that it's almost like the developers knew of their mistake. They knew that they gave too much away, and instead of handling it with grace and subtlety, they handle it like a damn freight train or a bulldozer. they do it by introducing you to a character named Beta. And the thing about Beta is that every time she is on screen, she is having an absolute frickin' meltdown. The world's biggest anxiety attack. Pretty much the only thing that she tells you is that regardless of what you're doing, regardless of any progress you feel that you're making, we lose. Just because the villains are what they are who they are, and there's so much about them that you don't know. Which, to me, as a player, she does this over and over and over and over. That's literally like her only purpose. Her only purpose is to sit there on screen and through these meltdowns basically constantly remind the player of, like, there's a big secret that we didn't give away. Like, we know that we said a little bit too much in the beginning, but we promise that there's this huge revelation that nobody knows that's going to be worth it in the end, so please stick with it. Please don't give up on us. Please don't, just, please. And honestly, I think they try too hard, and Beta ruins it. Because, she spends so much time on screen kind of beating it into your head that there's obviously something big that's going to happen, that's waiting in the wings for the right moment at the end of the game to take place, that when they finally reveal it, instead of it being this holy shit mic drop, like, what is happening type thing, it's just like, and there it is, because you know it's coming. Beta tells you over and over and over again that it is, so there's literally no surprise there, and it ruins it. I will say that the direction of where they're going makes logical sense. I think it is a nice build for what I assume is going to be a trilogy of games. The first one was very much about, like, what is this world? Why are we in it? How is it created? And then there's the whole issue with the Hades AI. Then you get to this other group of people who are immortals, who present themselves as the villains of this game, only to find out they're not really the villains at all, or they are, but there's something else. And that something else is I think the game kind of explains what they did to get to it. So if you don't if you know and understand, and if not, hopefully you play it for yourself and grasp onto it. Essentially, they went off to another planet to live forever. And they do some stuff. They, live in paradise for a little bit. They colonize, all that stuff. And they end up creating this, in their search and quest for immortality, because they're, like, afraid of dying or whatever. They essentially create what is a world-destroying, life-destroying amalgamation of digitized consciousness. So like, outside of your mortal shell. It's almost like transcendence. Basically, you just exist. And they realize that they have messed up. They've created a monster, so they neglect said monster until monster gets pissed off and decides to rebel against its master. Its way of doing so is to just destroy them. Basically, it's on a warpath, and they, as the immortals, are on the run, and it is following them. So they arrive on Earth to try and hide, and this world-eating behemoth is now barreling toward them. And like I said, I think that is kind of a nice build to what I assume will be the climax of the series. And at that point, I kind of was okay with the whole camaraderie thing, the whole Avengers idea, because at some point, I guess it makes sense logically in two ways. First off, the obvious thing is that it's now going to be, the entire human race facing this apocalypse that's coming straight at them. They don't know how to beat it. They can only hope that they're strong enough to find a way, and it's basically all hands on deck as they train and they prep for this showdown with this world-devouring, life-devouring monster, right? So I guess it makes sense there. It also makes sense that as things progress and time goes on, Aloy isn't always going to be the only one that has this knowledge, which makes sense. Eventually, she is going to take what she knows, what she's learned, the tools that she has, and she is going to share them. Other people are going to learn it, and eventually that technology is going to change the existence of these people, the culture of these people. It's going to change the world as they know it. And obviously, because of the true antagonist being revealed, they're going to need it. So it does end up making sense, and I guess I'm okay with it. I can say that like I said, I did enjoy very, very much what they did here. All of that, the character stuff and the plot stuff set aside, I still very, very much enjoyed the game. But when I finished it and I set the controller down, I ended up feeling very, very odd for a while. My wife, who knew exactly how big a fan I was and how excited I was very eager to know how I felt about it. And I was very confused, and I really wasn't sure why, and I kind of explained all of the things that I just did to her, and I was like, yes, these things drove me nuts. Yes, they were negatives. But I don't think they're the reason why I feel off about the game. I think it's bigger than that. And I just couldn't, for the longest time, pinpoint exactly what it was that made me feel differently about this game. Again, still very, very much liked it. But it was just, wasn't and am not in love with it like I am the first one. First I was like, okay, is it the gameplay? Is it what you do in the game? No, because there's nothing special about it. Pretty much every open world game these days that you come across is going to be exactly like this, so it's not necessarily special. And then it hit me. I think what is special about the game, or what was special about the first game, and what made it, what hit me about it so hard was that I really didn't know anything about it. Um, I didn't know what I was in for. It was an entirely new world to me. I keep harping back on the whole exploration and discovery thing. That's and it's because I think that's truly where the magic of Horizon lies, is in the mystery of what is this world, why is it here, and how did we get here? And where I got to experience that so much with the first game, because of everything narratively, because of beta, because it ruins the whole surprise, I didn't feel. I felt robbed. I didn't have the same special experience because there was no surprises. There was no sense of discovery. It was all made very obvious and kind of I got beat over the head with it as a player. And I really think that is the big negative that I have about it, is it just wasn't the same experience. Not with the gameplay. Like I said, I knew exactly what that was going to be. It's the exact same as, open world games have been for the last few years. Nothing special there. But I think it's just my intimate relationship and interaction within the world, and how I, as a player, get to receive that information. I just don't think it was there for me, and I guess that would be the big negative that all these other little negatives that I mentioned lead up to. Which ended up to be kind of my final verdict of the game. Is it's great. I love it because it's Horizon. I'm very excited for the future. Very, very hyped for the next game and to know what's gonna happen. But I just didn't like it as much as I thought I would, as much as I hoped to. I'm just not in love with it. Do I think it's going to be on my Game of the Year list? Absolutely. Still a phenomenal game, still a beautiful game, still very, very much worth it. I'm not sure at this point if it's going to be my Game of the Year necessarily. It very well may be. I'm not going to know that until I sit down and make out a list. But I would say, regardless, it's probably going to be on there. But yeah, in short, I think, I did very much like it. But it wasn't the same magic as the first one was for all these reasons. But yeah, that's my review of Horizon Forbidden West, I guess. So until next time, guys, we'll see you later.